Phase 1. Your brain as a divine masterpiece. The human brain is often described as the most complex organ we know. Billions of neurons and countless synapses form a network that inspires awe. For some, a masterpiece of nature; for others, a visible trace of the hand of God. This organ is far more than a computer in your head. Your brain is alive, learning, adaptable. It changes when you gain new experiences, when you learn, love, suffer, or heal. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to constantly reshape itself through new connections, contradicts the old notion that everything becomes fixed after childhood. This very malleability reflects something profoundly graceful. You are not bound to your past. Your brain can reorganize itself, old patterns can weaken, new pathways can emerge. Like a quiet reflection of divine mercy, your mind repeatedly grants you second chances, growth, and inner renewal. So when we speak of the brain, we are not only talking about biology. We are talking about a tool that, one could say, was designed by God to grow with you as you change. In this marvel begins the story. Here is where God reaches out to speak to you through your mind. Phase 2. Your mind as an antenna for God's impulses. For centuries, many spiritual traditions have located the seat of the soul, or the inner human, in the realm of thought and consciousness. Your mind is something like the intersection between your everyday life and what people call the divine. In the New Testament, we are encouraged not to conform uncritically to this world, but to let our thinking be renewed so that we may better recognize what is good, healing, and meaningful. In simple terms, when your thinking changes, you perceive God's will more clearly. Imagine your neural networks as small pathways etched into your brain through every experience. If God created humanity in His image, then this capacity for transformation reflects something of God's own vitality. As you learn, reflect, make mistakes, and rise again, you are essentially retuning your inner receiver. Many sacred texts, whether from Jewish, Christian, Islamic, or Eastern traditions, emphasize themes of transformation, renewal, and the pursuit of wisdom. This aligns perfectly with a brain that can adapt, learn, and heal. Like a radio, it requires the right tuning. Noise becomes clear music when the station is properly set. Likewise, a well-tuned mind, supported by neuroplasticity, becomes more receptive to subtle impulses, insights, and inner images you interpret as God speaking. Your environment plays an enormous role. The people around you, the content you consume, the habits you practice, all shape your brain. Spiritually speaking, it means this: when you seek wisdom, practice patience, and cultivate love, you prepare a space in your mind where God's voice can be more easily recognized. Phase 3. How God speaks through your words and emotions. Words have always had the power to change worlds, politically, personally, spiritually. With sentences, alliances have been forged and broken, lives encouraged or derailed. Words are intertwined with emotions. They can heal or wound, unite or divide. In the Gospel of John, God Himself is described as the Word, a symbol of the deep connection between language and divine reality. In many spiritual traditions, spoken or internal language plays a central role. Prayer, mantra, blessings, confessions. Neurologically, your words and the emotions attached to them leave traces in your brain. Repeated statements, including your inner dialogue, shape your neural pathways. When you speak lovingly, truthfully, and encouragingly, you carve paths of light in your brain that open your perception toward yourself, others, and God. Bitter, contemptuous, or cynical words darken your perception and dull your spiritual sensitivity. God can speak, especially through this realm, through a word that reaches you at exactly the right moment, through a sentence that stays in your mind for days, through a quiet impulse to say something encouraging to someone. Your emotional center, the limbic system, constantly reacts to what you experience. A heart filled with resentment or anger struggles to find peace in God's presence. A heart that repeatedly seeks peace, despite difficulties, notices gentle, comforting impulses more easily. Words and emotions intertwine. Hurtful speech fuels negative emotions, and those emotions drive even harsher words. Many psalms include the plea that one's words and thoughts may be pleasing to God. When you pause in moments of anger or pain and inwardly ask for guidance through prayer, silence, or a deep breath, you interrupt that spiral. This is one of the ways God can work through your mind, by giving you a moment of clarity before you speak. You realize, I don't have to say everything that comes to mind. Phase 4. Growth, Decisions, and the Hidden Pedagogy of God. The adaptability of your brain shows how much development is possible even in adulthood. Every thought, action, and decision strengthens certain neural pathways or weakens others. This mirrors a spiritual law of cause and effect. What you repeatedly think, feel, and do shapes your character, and thus your inner resonance with God's voice. Many spiritual traditions emphasize that you reap the fruits of your actions. When you sow kindness, compassion, and love, you not only nurture your environment, but also shape your brain toward greater trust, hope, and openness toward God. Another principle is adaptation. You become similar to the environment you immerse yourself in. Wisdom texts warn against closely bonding with people dominated by anger, envy, or violence. Neurologically, your brain continuously adapts to your surroundings. Spiritually, your inner compass shifts, either toward or away from what you perceive as God's path. Then there is the freedom of choice. God does not force you, He grants you free will. With every decision, conscious or automatic, you strengthen specific neural patterns. You can continually ask yourself, does this decision bring me closer to love, truth, and inner peace, or further away? This is how your mind becomes a place of collaboration with God, not merely a battleground of inner conflicts. Even on a biological level, growth never stops. New neural connections form, old ones are remodeled. This capacity for renewal reflects, on a spiritual level, the possibility of forgiveness and new beginnings. You are not chained to old stories, neither emotionally nor neurologically. God offers you the chance to walk new mental pathways with Him. Sometimes growth happens through shocks, painful experiences, crises, losses. Just as extreme stimuli force the brain to adapt, internal and external challenges often lead to deep transformation. Spiritually, such times can serve as tests or learning fields in which faith, trust, and character mature. When one door closes, others may open, opportunities you did not see before. In these transitional phases, God may speak very clearly through your mind, through new insights, shifting priorities, unexpected ideas. Phase 5. Fine-tuning, learning to recognize God's voice in your mind. When we bring all of this together, brain, words, emotions, decisions, crises, a picture emerges. Science and faith do not need to be opposites. Your brain is not only a biological processor, but also an instrument God can play. Divine communication does not need to be spectacular. Often it appears quietly. In a thought that suddenly brings peace, in a verse, prayer, or wisdom saying that stays with you for days, in a surprising shift of perspective, in the quiet certainty of what the next good step is. The more consciously you shape your thinking, the clearer this inner stream becomes. You can, for example, examine your thoughts. Which inner sentences do I repeat? Are they shaped by fear, self-hate, and resignation, or by trust, responsibility, and hope? Align your words. Do I speak in a way that brings goodness to myself and others? Or do my words constantly inflict wounds? Choose your environment. Which people, contents, and routines nourish my spirit, and which pull me away from what I call God's voice? Allow moments of silence. Without distractions, your inner noise settles, and you begin to sense which thoughts are merely stress and which feel like a fine, peaceful thread. Perhaps God is indeed speaking all the time, through experiences, encounters, images, ideas, sudden clarity. Your brain is the place where these signals arrive, are sorted, and take form. How God speaks through your mind does not mean hearing external voices. It means shaping your inner world so that wisdom, love, and truth have more room. In this inner alignment, what you perceive as God's voice can become increasingly clear, right in the midst of your everyday thinking.
If you enjoyed this journey, feel free to subscribe to my channel. More inspiring impulses are waiting.